Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning on what would be a bank holiday Monday if you're in the UK. Where do we begin? Let's begin at the beginning by introducing my co-host. Greg, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. I've been a bit rough, with a bit of a chest and a bit of a throat, but I'm feeling a bit better, thankfully.
Yeah, I'm.
Unfortunately, I recovered enough to watch that rubbish.
I'm so sorry. Likewise, I unfortunately, I'm getting. So I think the only game I've missed this season watching is I think like the first Ipswich game, which is ironic because it's one of the only games we actually got anything out of. And yeah, I really struggled with Saturday, and I think I even tweeted out that like half time I ended up calling my nan, who I was talking to her about the podcast we do, and she was just like, I just don't understand how. So wait, hang on, you do this every day? And I'm like, yeah, I do this every day. It's a daily thing. How is there that much to talk about? It's like we're just shit. I'm like, thanks, Nan. You know, you're right. you're not wrong, but there is a lot of so it's the reasons why we're bad, yeah, and who's caused that. I'm like, there's been some okay times, and I'm sat there thinking of all the sort of times we've chatted about, like, we were right for 20 minutes, or I don't know if you saw like Taylor Harwood-Bellis yesterday come out after the game. I feel like probably in an emotional way, but maybe should have not sent him out there.
The only thing I saw was the headline, and the headline read, "We'll make it to at least 12 points." I'm like, really?
He basically said that like we always perform better against all the big clubs, and then somebody just posted all of the results against the big clubs. It's like, yeah, we play well against the big clubs for like 50, 60 minutes, and then they batter us like 4-5-0. So yeah, I just think from their perspective, I think they have to kind of believe the delusion, or otherwise, you're right. We're just going to lose the next 3 games in a row in the worst possible fashion. But again,
that's right up there as amongst the likely things to happen anyway, to be honest, mate. That's not...
We'll start at the beginning. Lineups were pretty much unchanged bar the fact that Ross Stewart stayed as the starter instead of Onuachu, which upset a few people, but would it have mattered? They would have been giving Onuachu the ball as much as they were giving it to Stewart, which was apparently not.
He had 3 touches in the first half. How can you judge his performance on that level of service?
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
The same can be said of all of our strikers, right? Like, obviously, our numbers this season are dismal, and you can call Cameron Archer out for his 2 goals in, 20 appearances or whatever, and Ross Stewart for perpetually being injured. But also, if you're not giving them the ball to play with, what are you expecting to happen?
It was so weird.
I hate that it's becoming a catchphrase of the show, Zach, but if you don't kick the ball at the goal, or give it to the players who are willing to kick the ball at the goal, you're not going to win games.
Do you know what's always really funny, mate, on top of that, is when you turn around to me and you're like, well, these are Premier League. Somebody at some point decided that these players deserved a Premier League contract to play football professionally. And you look at, like, I don't know, some of the non-league sides this year that have put up fights against sort of the bigger clubs. And you do wonder, like, what is going on? What is going through the minds of our players? And apparently yesterday was just to revert to Martin Ball for a lot of the game.
It genuinely looked like Russell Martin had taken charge of the team again. It was the ghost of Russell Martin came in and, I don't know, like,
it was so strange.
Took out the ref in the process.
We'll get to that shortly. But obviously, just like first half, it was just dismal. Like it was awful. But watching both sides early on was just like, oh, good. Both teams are going to get it. They're going to get it near the opposition box, and then they're going to do nothing with it. And then that's exactly what happened until obviously it didn't. And obviously, as I said in the podcast before, mate, of course it was going to be Jamie Vardy. It's always going to be Jamie Vardy, of course. And of course, a team that hadn't scored at home since December get a goal against us. Like we wrote the script out before the game even took place. And
actually, it's actually a surprise because Jamie Vardy is now at 199 Leicester goals. So frankly, it is more shocking to me that he didn't score his 200th against us. That is itself almost a miracle, right? Like,
just upsetting. And like, so our match stats for the game, obviously, not that we usually care about match stats anyway. Like XG is a useless number, but 0.53. And I say it's a useless number, but that still seems too high. we had.
I can't remember us having a shot.
We had 8 in total, but only 2 were on target, because all of the ones that sort of came out of nowhere were usually like Matty Fernandez, and they would hit somebody. This was the first half. We'll get to the second half in a bit. Or just like occasionally just where it would whiz past the keeper, whiz directly over the goal. So those are most of the shots, apart from the 2 that were apparently on target. But yeah, touches inside the box, they had 21, we had 20. 2 goalkeeper saves apiece. Apparently, according to the statistics, it's actually quite well matched, apart from shots and shots on target, right?
As you'd expect from El Crapico.
Yeah, exactly. But that I think that just shows you how bad we've gotten. That like even like because people are talking about, I don't want to stir up controversy, but we've seen Luton go down now, right? So Luton are now heading down to League One. Apparently, we seem to think we have the quality to not do that. You sent me a meme yesterday of the people from Luton going, "We're going to absolutely HMS like stuff the league. We're gonna batter this league," and clearly they didn't. And now they've gone down with Plymouth and Cardiff to League One. And I am very worried that we have that level of arrogance, because this summer is so important. Probably the most important one we've had in years. So much more important than the last time we were relegated. For how this club is going to react, because I've never seen such a lack of identity. And the two goals as well, that like the first goal, Jamie Vardy hit it straight away, and it was a very, very good goal. But like to get into that position,
nobody marked him.
Just rolling through. Like you could have had all 11 players in a line. I still think that you'd be able to get past him and get through him. It's like playing very, very easy on FIFA. It's mad. It's very, very upsetting that it was that easy.
The second goal's just as bad, right? It bounced off the wall back to the player who took the free kick.
Hit the wall. So what happened at that point was we were like, well, let's not do anything about that. It didn't go in. And then Ayew hit it again. And then obviously like one of his last few goals were against Southampton. He scored in the reverse of this fixture. And you're just there like, man, I know that we like to break records for other teams, but my word, like my expectations were low. I actually thought we might give it a good go tomorrow. I think that because of the way that Rusk and Lallana had kind of set up, and the game before wasn't as good, but like it seemed like there was, I guess, starting to be some semblance of progress by just getting it back to basics. And then yesterday we were like, do you know what we should actually do? Like play out from back again? Like, what?
Just like...
But you're not. But what's even worse is we'd set up the team to not play like that. So I don't know if Jack Stevens is at the back telling everybody to play out from the back.
At the start of the season. What we need to do is play Russell Martin ball.
And we'll get into more of the exciting events and some of the thoughts that we both have on the rest of the game, and somehow what's going to come after this, because I'm not looking forward to any of the next games. After a word from our wonderful partners at Bioniq.
Your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements, designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
And we are back. So it's not like it was we say a game of two halves, right? It really wasn't. It was a game of three halves, right? Because we had this weird situation where the game is not going to be remembered for anything that happened in the game. The game is going to be remembered for the fact that the ref on his Premier League debut was taken out by a straight elbow. Concussed, went down.
He went down like a sack of spuds, man. I've never seen anything like it.
He put on a sort of Neymar-worthy performance, only for them to send on physios immediately. Then we had this whole thing about Jamie Vardy blowing the whistle, because apparently we were on the attack, so that's why he did it. Because when asked that question, he was like, "Oh, is this going to be a future career?" He was like, "Nah, they were breaking, so just thought I'd stop the game," which is just the most classic standard response. Which is,
and like it would be easy to take offence to that, but based on statistical and historical evidence, our forward break was just going to end up with us passing it back to Ramsdale anyway, so it doesn't matter, does it? Like...
True. So it's not like we did anything with it. And obviously, then there was like 12 minutes of stoppage we counted, which was 12 minutes added on to the end of that half. And then obviously took a while, and then I think they maybe need to make sure that, like, if you're going to have a backup ref, make sure they're also mic'd up in a way that means that you don't need to spend 10 minutes strapping a microphone to them. Because it definitely broke up the game, and
that's hard for the players, right? Imagine having to stop for 10 minutes.
Well, yeah, because we know, because that first 10 minutes afterwards, it was like the beginning of the match again, where everything was kicking off, and then only things started to happen a little bit.
Yeah,
and then it was only obviously, and then in that time as well was when after they kind of kicked into gear was when they scored. And it kind of felt like it was the verge of half-time, but wasn't, because we had a whole 15 minutes afterwards, not that you'd have thought we did. And then, so just absolutely
highlight of the game for me, though. What dive! I've never seen anything quite like it.
No, that's the thing. That's what I said. It's going to be what the game's remembered for. That, or potentially Jamie Vardy's last goal at home for Leicester, because who knows?
Yeah.
But for us, for me, the point that I was alluding to that I wanted to make was, I think that would have been the nail in the coffin, in my opinion, for Rusk and Lallana's interview section for potentially taking over next season. I think if there was I wouldn't be surprised if they were in the running as like a duo, depending on how these games went. I think if
they get a win from this game, you could 100% see that being the way it plays out. 100%.
But no, I don't know how. And so when do we want to talk about the Matty Fernandez stuff?
I mean, is he was stuck in Portugal with a power cut maybe the worst excuse of all time?
No, because I think, like, you've seen this before with players where, like, they've gone on World Cup duties or international duties. Aribo had it happen, right, where he was stuck in Libya on the border for whatever. So he's tired, right? The problem is that, so apparently it was something that was planned. So if Matty Fernandez knew about it, slightly different. But I understand.
So he looked visibly frustrated at coming off.
Yeah, so that's why that's why I question it, because he was frustrated. I think it was like Southampton World or one of the Instagram accounts posted yesterday about it and how he was sung for 45 minutes. And I sent the screenshots to you, Greg, of like him actually thanking fans on that, because obviously it must be a wonderful experience when you're 20 something and someone sings your name for like 45 minutes straight.
Yeah,
but again, it's like, I think on top of that being a failed interview, decisions like that, and I'm like, I understand, people were like, oh, they should have said about it, and I'm like, well, they're not going to come out in the press conference before and be like, well, we're only planning to give Matty Fernandez 60 minutes because he's tired. Paul's only going to get, you don't want to give away all the tricks. Not that I don't think it would matter. I think you could give our starting 11, you could give every bit of information to the opposition. It would make a blind bit difference. It wouldn't beat us anymore.
You kind of foreshadowed it yourself, though, because when we were talking before the game, or at half time, you went, what substitutions could he make to change this?
But this is the other thing, is that, like, I tweeted it out as well, because I was just, what could you do? Because there's nothing, not that is number one, but also like there's no getting us out of this situation. I think somebody said, not play 5 at the back. I'm like, yeah, I kind of agree with that, but also that just means we'd have shipped even more goals, to be perfectly honest. But the thing is we're not really playing with a back 5. No, because we're playing with a back 3.
Playing it forward and like actually passing the ball to our striker and getting him in positions.
I just don't. But I said to you what I think the actual outcome is, and that is that fundamentally this group of players can't play together anymore. And like, I know that you were hoping that we keep some core of the team together because it will be easier next season. I don't think that's the case. I think if Steven stays, sure, whatever, but I would not be surprised if Jan goes, considering he's got a £6 million relegation clause, which we haven't really talked about that. I don't think the news dropped over the last time we talked, but it's one of those things where people are like, oh, it's just the same. I'm like, I don't blame him for going, but also it shows that the new contract really isn't about sticking to here and staying here. It's potentially about getting a cheaper move elsewhere, which, if that's the case, again, don't blame him for it, whatever. But like, I genuinely just don't think that we can have the defense the way it is. You know, it's going to change anyway because Kyle Walker-Peters is going to go. We know that. So you know, they need to rebuild that area. Ugachukwu is going to go, so they're going to have to get someone to complement Downs. I wouldn't be surprised if Downs starts knocking on the door to go elsewhere, considering he already tried to leave to Ipswich anyway.
Well, look, I think I said it in our summary that really, I don't think I care. Like,
I don't anymore.
The important parts to me, it's a win if we keep either of Diblin or Fernandez, right? And I'm sure that many people, especially based off of current form, would probably tend towards Fernandez over Diblin. But I think that does misjustice to the promise of Diblin. If we keep both of them, and the entire rest of the starting 11 is different, great. That's a win.
Yeah. I'm kind of with you now, and I know that I can't even remember what we said back in our Buy Keep Sell, but it shows you how quickly. You know, I know we've been relegated, like, but it's like that meme of like our expectations were low, but my word, like, and that game really killed it off. And I feel bad for Taylor Harbour-Bellis that he's frustrated, and we're going to do the best. We're not going to go out on 12 points. We heard that 3 games ago. We still haven't reached that magic 12 points, and I just don't see us picking up points against. Again, the only way I could see us getting any points the rest of the season at this rate is well, Arsenal seem to just at the moment be in some sort of weird collapse because they definitely are upset until they know, you know, we might be able to hurt them if they lose to PSG, right? Will be because we completely ruin everyone's day out at Everton, Goodison Park, right? Like the last day out, we ruin that. So
yeah,
that's the only way I see us getting points.
The only thing I see us ruining at Goodison Park is our optimistic view that we're going to ruin anyone's day.
Yeah,
like the only thing Saints have ruined all year is my weekend consistently.
And then it's even funnier because you've got like the store sales going on, and they're trying to get rid of the second kits and the third kits and this and the other and the away kits, and they're still only half price at 30 quid. And I'm sat there looking at 30 quid like, does anyone really want to buy any of these shirts from this season? Like I have a signed shirt. I love my signed shirt, but I look over there and it does just remind me of the last time we were relegated all the time. You know, it's not. I think it's nothing to do with like highlighter pink and highlighter yellow kits or anything like that. It's just it's just been an awful season, and I understand that we've quote unquote got nothing to play for, and I understand that even I'd have preferred it if we'd done like what you said, where it's like a preseason, right? Where maybe we gave some people a different go, or maybe we changed shape a couple of times. But I don't know what we saw at probably our highest like winnable game. And I know that Rusk didn't want to criticise any of the fans and kind of was like, yeah, we kind of need them. I'm like, if you want the fans, like, you need to show them something. Like, they are already going all the way up to Leicester, and we saw nothing. Nothing at all. Not even worth, you know, and I feel so sorry because we just deserve so much better. I would say, I'm not saying we deserve anything more personally, Greg, but also we have been covering a team 5 days a week that have won twice. We have 190 episodes.
You think about the cost of season tickets and kits and
that's what I was saying. And I get it, and like I understand, but it's so frustrating. And I know it's difficult to kind of where to lash out your anger. Is it at the owners? Is it at the players? Some people are going, well, you know, what you're doing now, you know, Russell Martin went, and it turns out it's, you know, then it was Ivan Juric, and now it turns out it's just the players. I'm like, yeah, they're all just not good enough for what we're trying to build, and that's why I'm with you. We need to, in my mind, build the entire thing from the ground up and go from there. And we just need somebody with a sense of direction and players that are not completely destroyed and players that want to go into, like, I think maybe Stevens looks like Stevens and Manning, tell a lie, because Manning was interviewed recently. The only 2 players that look like they're happy to go down to the Championship and proper fighting. The rest of them have all either just like said lots of stuff or already kind of planning their next move ahead. So
sums it up though, doesn't it? Because if, like, looking at the build up to the start of the season, if I'd have said to you that Ryan Manning and Jack Stevens have been 2 of our most consistent players,
be like, to be honest, they were probably the first 2 players that we probably thought we needed to replace.
Yeah,
and that's the reality of the situation we're in. But don't worry, guys, we've still got 3 games to go, and we'll chat a little bit about what's to come after a word from our partners at Zencastr.
Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform, and Zencastr came out the clear winner, with 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs. It's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description and learn more about Zencastr.
So we are back, and yeah, what a horribly forgetful game that is going to be a pub quiz bit of trivia in years to come because of that 12 minutes of stoppage, right? That's going to be all it's going to be.
Jamie Vardy blowing the whistle, just going viral.
Yeah. But that was, again, probably the most interesting part of the game.
100%. And we didn't put up any. Sure, the first goal, soft defending, good finish. The second goal, no defending, just switched off completely from let's face it, an awful free kick. Right? Straight at the wall, should have just been cleared away and dealt with, no. And then we had nothing. We showed no fight back. There was no, regroup at half-time and give it a good go. We just, whatever. Oh, the sun's out.
I guess Robinson got a bit more game time.
Yeah.
That's probably it. That's the only other thing I've got. Yeah, it'll be, as I keep saying, whoever's coming in has a job on their hands, and I just hope that they pick the right person, and I hope that they make sure they are aware of the challenge in front of them. Because one of the things that I thought was very interesting when they were I think Juric completely underestimated how much of a challenge he had ahead of him. And
don't forget when he came in, he said that he was confident that there was still something to fight for and that we weren't relegated.
Yeah.
We wrote that off as something that he had to say coming in, but
I'm starting to think
of the fact that we fired him when it was confirmed, you have to think that he maybe truly believed it.
I think he probably did believe it, and that says everything you need to know about the way that it's gone. And as I said before, it's difficult because I understand why there's a lot of vitriol and hatred towards Sports Republic. I understand why there's a lot of hatred and vitriol towards the players and the coaches. A combination of factors have resulted in the place that we're at. I think that us being as bad as we have has taken away from how bad Leicester and Ipswich have performed as well. And also other weird parts of this, story. I've just seen Manchester United lost again to Brentford 4-3. They had a bit of a fight back, but you're looking at sort of the Tottenhams and the Manchester Uniteds of the world, where somehow still fighting for European place at trophies, but are in probably the direst league form in a long, long time.
The Europa League final could be Spurs United, which could genuinely be 15th versus 16th in the Premier League,
which
for a Champions League spot.
Stunning, absolutely stunning, and it's just been a strange, horrible year, I think, for a lot of football fans. I feel like, Forest and sort of Newcastle probably disagree with us for sure. But for me, it can't come to an end quick enough. And yet somehow there's still more games to play.
Yeah.
But we do get to join, one of the most exciting leagues in the world where, you texted me yesterday, Greg, going, imagine getting 100 points and only conceding 16 goals in your league and somehow coming second. And that was the reality of Burnley yesterday. And that shows you we are about to go back into something that is slightly more exciting. I just hope we go back to it in a position where we do not get relegated again. And I know that seems kind of far-fetched, but it's happened to us before. And also, it's just happened to another team that dropped out of the league.
But Luton and us in previous times were in much worse positions then.
For sure.
We are going to be financially giving it a go regardless. Yeah. And that should be enough to at least keep us up. Even if it goes horribly wrong.
I think that's the thing, right? Is that we kind of forget, and the problem is it feels that level of doom because that is currently the culture that they have permeated through. They've cultivated this lovely, awful feeling that we just never know if we're going to win again, and it doesn't feel like we ever will. And that is going to have to change.
Man City next.
Yes, fine. I'm looking forward to. How do you have a conversation with a bunch of lads who, when we have our crossover, are going to be like, yeah, it's so bad. We've had such a terrible season, and we're just there like, we can relate. How much did you spend in January? What's that? You're letting go of Kevin De Bruyne, who just scored an absolutely beautiful goal the other day. Imagine if we were able to let go of a player that scored goals. My word.
What is
But
a goal?
well, yeah, no, you're right. That's the thing. But
They are on the feed I was watching yesterday, Zach. On from my holiday home.
yep.
They unironically talk like, is it a controversial decision to leave their top scorer on the bench of Paul Arnachu? And I'm like, he scored 4 goals. Like,
it's also he wouldn't last more than 30 minutes
Yeah.
anyway. So what's the point? And again, like it just confounds the point, mate, that we keep coming back to. That's just like, what else could we have done? And I know that maybe it's shift the formation, maybe it's to have different personnel on the pitch. Again,
just
a lot of it's back to basics.
They took it back to basics, but they forgot the most basic part. When you
Sort
kick
of.
the ball at the goal, sometimes it goes in. Like,
Do you know what, Greg? That's where we're going to leave it, because there's nothing else we can say. That is the fundamental part of our game that seems to be missing at the moment. But it's fine, because it's not like we've got Man City and Arsenal in the next 2 out of 3 games that we have, and an emotional, weird game at Goodison Park where it's going to be crazy for them and just another day out for us, I guess.
Yeah.
But we'll be back with you tomorrow with something. I'm sure we haven't. We're going to try and enjoy the bank holiday and figure out what we're going to do. I'm sure I'll have another manager's profile at some point this week. Maybe we'll have a crossover. Who knows? And then obviously we'll have our match preview. So back to normal next week, or this week. Sorry. And yeah, that'll be that. So follow us on all the socials: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, YouTube. We also have video format in YouTube if that's your thing. Don't know why. It's just lots of me and Greg looking at the microphone, occasionally laughing at each other when we realise that we've done dumb stuff and then had to cut it out. But it's fun. So until then, my wonderful listeners, we will see you in the next one.
Bye.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.